Hi everyone, how are you all? I'll wait till it gets connected to you guys. Hi Claire, thank you everyone for joining. I know it's been long since we did a last live session, but today is a very great session that we are going to have today with a very special guest, and the doctor's name is Dr. Naidoo. Dr. Naidoo is a psychiatrist and a professional chef, and she's regarded nationally and internationally as a pioneer in the field of nutritional psychiatry, and she has also been awarded as a best-selling author for her book This Is Your Brain on Food. So I'm gonna add Dr. Naidoo here, and let's start the session. Thank you everyone for joining. It's so great to have you all here with us today. Let me see. Okay, I've sent invite to doctor and she'll be here any second. I hope you all are doing good. Thank you for joining. Thank you for so many waves and so many hugs. Yes, Dr. Naidoo, thank you for sharing her link. Thank you, everyone. Like I said, we are being joined by Dr. Naidoo, who is a psychiatrist and a professional chef, and she is recognized internationally and nationally for her nutritional psychiatry. And she is also the author of the best-selling book known as This Is Your Brain on Food, which of course means that the food that you eat affects your brain. I have sent a request to Dr. Naidoo and she should be here any second. Hi doctor, I see you here. Yes, thank you. Okay guys, doctor is gonna be with us. Hi doctor.
How are you? It's great to see you.
Oh, great to have you here. Thank you so much and good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you so much for accepting this request, and it's an honor to have you with us here.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here. Yes.
Thank you so much. We have been waiting for this session and to know more about your book and the work you have done in nutritional as a nutritional psychiatrist. And we want to know that how did you get this interest?
How did it start? It's a long story. It starts back in my childhood. I grew up in a large South Asian family, and so instead of going to preschool, I asked my parents, or maybe I told my parents that I wanted to spend the time with my maternal grandmother, to whom my book is dedicated. Um, and when I spent time with her during the day, my mom was in medical school, so during the day I needed to spend the time with my grandmother, and she would cook, meals from scratch and pick fresh vegetables from the garden. And I sort of learned and absorbed that. But my grandparents taught me yoga and meditation. So there was this holistic element of how health is brought into the world. And then between my family, there were allopathic doctors, but also a couple of Ayurvedic practitioners. So there was that influence, So there's all of these different things. So when I came to study mental health, I knew that that was what I wanted to do. I realized that there needed to be more tools in the toolbox for people who wanted to feel emotionally better. And why were we ignoring nutrition and lifestyle factors and only looking at medications and therapy?
Right.
Medications and therapy definitely have been life-saving for my patients, but at the same time, I feel there are more tools that we need. And that's where my love for nutrition, my love for food really came into play. And I started to explore those and started to ask questions and wanted to learn more. So, when I had the opportunity to bring this together in a clinic, I took that opportunity, and that was what led to the books. So that's it in a nutshell. There are many more things around it, but I know this is an Instagram live. So.
Thank you so much for sharing this. I understand that, yeah, you have, experienced this since childhood and you've developed the interest, and here you are, you have actually created that. and you are sharing it with the world. So, Doctor, as the name of your book is, which is
Yes.
"This is Your Brain on Food."
Yes.
So it means that
Spectacular.
food really, really impacts your brain. Yes, this is your brain on food. So, in what way, what incidents have you seen that does the food impacts one's brain, and how can it vary from person to person?
Absolutely. So, if we just start with looking at mental health on its own, the gut-brain connection explains the food-mood connection.
Yes.
So we don't necessarily go into our doctor's offices and talk about, what our brain is doing. We often will talk about how we feel in
Yes.
relation to a symptom or family history of type 2 diabetes. But the
Right.
missing conversation in the room is around nutrition as an element. And part of it is doctors simply don't learn enough about nutrition. If you want to, you've got to
Yes.
find your education elsewhere. Not you get a very bare bones understanding in most medical schools, not all, but most. So, as the emerging research around the gut brain connection happened over the last, say, 2 decades, it
Yes.
really started to explain that food mode connection. So it is quite recent, it's a more nascent and newer field. But I think that more and more, whether it's MS, whether it's mental health alone, whichever condition it is, food, nutrition is a lifestyle measure. It's no longer, oh, just something else or that you just talk to someone else about. It is very much part of what we should be doing and thinking about every day. MS is an inflammatory neurological condition in which the myelin around the neurons are destroyed.
Yes.
So when we think about that, right, we think about whether it's depression or anxiety. Any one of these conditions can not necessarily be fully cured by nutrition, but nutrition can play a very significant role in
Right.
improvement in symptoms and feeling better.
Yes.
So, if we were to think about some of the associations, vitamin D is an important nutrient for depression and anxiety. Low levels are associated with those conditions, but vitamin D is also really important for individuals with MS. So, including things like mushrooms in the diet, egg yolks, and whole eggs become important because they're sources of vitamin D. And I just think, if you do consume eggs, not everyone does, look for pastured options that are rich in omega-3s and that type of thing. Mushrooms, that's an easy one and an easy vegetable to include because it has so many bioactives in it that are good for our brain. But one of the things is that they contain vitamin D. So think about it that way. Um, so if we were to really unpack this a little bit, food makes a difference, and what the choices we make can therefore help us feel physically better and emotionally better.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much. So it's seen that many patients, they say that they don't want to be on any kind of drugs
Yeah,
or DMTs.
medications. Yeah, yeah.
Yes, absolutely. So they all usually take the route of lifestyle. So they
Hmm.
improve their diet and
Hmm.
have proper food. They concentrate on exercises, which is a
Hmm.
must. It is also about, then also they take care of their sleep patterns and low stress levels.
Right.
All these things comprise, and they want to treat themselves with these things and
Hmm.
stay away from medicines. That is
Right.
important.
And I think that it's a something to definitely consider, but make sure to discuss it with your doctor,
Absolutely.
because there is a way to slowly taper off medications in mental health. There are definitely individuals whom I've worked with to help them do that, but it's not everyone is the same, and part of
Yes.
that is everyone has a very different microbiome. It's like a thumbprint, so we have to consult with our doctors. But here's the thing: whatever you're doing, whatever you're needing to take that might be a prescription, you can still work on good self-care, good care of yourself, lifestyle measures such as nutrition, like you mentioned, proper sleep, good sleep hygiene, hydration. People who are
Yes.
dehydrated can appear more anxious. Dehydration has been associated with depression. So, spending outdoor time, 10 minutes in outdoor in daylight brings us 80% of our necessary vitamin D for the day. So even taking in this work from home world or hybrid world, take a walk outside at lunchtime, be outdoors if you can. Spending time in nature, has been associated with calming down the body, with an improvement in focus. So all of these things that are exercise, movement, yoga, mindfulness, all of that, right, matters. And so I completely agree. There are so many ways that we can look at feeling better, and we should be doing them. We should be trying them out.
Absolutely. So all these things you said that these things could not be done during the pandemic and the lockdown period, and that's
Some of
the
them,
reason
yes.
why
True,
yeah, some,
because everyone is here.
so that is the reason why I think we saw that there was a lot of rise in depression level and
Oh,
people.
yes. Yes,
So yes, so
absolutely.
because people were not able to get social or could go out in nature,
Right?
take a 10 minutes walk outside and
See
therefore
their friends, people were isolated from families, from loved ones, and quarantine was necessary, but it was very, very, very isolating for people, and that's much harder if you have emotional or physical difficulties. And I think that we're seeing the aftermath of that, even though all of this with COVID is ongoing, where certain things have been lifted in terms of certain restrictions with vaccinations. Some people are able to actually do a little bit more, or be outdoors a little bit more, or certain places, gyms are open, for example, so they can get to exercise. Whereas being confined was necessary, but very harmful for mental health in many ways. So we are still recovering from that.
we are still recovering. Absolutely. So, Doctor, when we're talking about stress, there's one more thing that we see that people who are feeling stressed, they usually tend to overeat or
Yeah.
maybe have a lot of chocolates or anything sweet around,
Mhm.
or they have lots of cravings to eat any kind
Yeah.
of thing.
Mhm.
So, is this something which can help them reduce the stress, or is it good or bad, or how can that be controlled? How
Right.
is
So it's unfortunately, often when people are reaching out for what they call comfort foods, those comfort foods are not usually healthy. So they're usually discomfort for the brain, right? And so it's been a hard 18, 20 months now. So this is not about judging people. It's just really, what can we do to course correct? What can we do to change those? Maybe during the pandemic, we started to buy a lot more processed foods. Maybe we started to buy a lot more ice cream, maybe a lot more chocolate, candy bars, cookies, whatever it is. Now is the time to sort of reset that and see what can we do differently. Because what happens is, there was a study in the journal Nutrients published earlier this year that looked at processed, ultra processed foods, and basically the way that these foods are engineered to be hyperpalatable, and therefore they actually become addicting. So, say
yes,
during the pandemic, you decided, I'm going to buy lots more cookies. The problem is the way that these are made, you want and you crave more. There's a very short term satisfaction, which is related chemically and neurochemically to a response in the brain, but it's short lived. And the problem is when you eat those, what I call simple carbohydrates, because they have a lot of refined sugar, refined flours,
yes,
and stuff, what happens is that your insulin spikes because your glucose is high. And so there are bad effects on your brain. And you mentioned a question about cognition over time because of those spikes in insulin and your blood sugar being high. So in the short term, you have that cookie, you feel good. Yes, there is a response, but the long term is what is very concerning. And those are the reasons for us to rethink, well, can we kind of clean up our kitchens? Can we clean up our environments? Can we put in healthy snacks, healthy options for ourselves? Because if they're there, we're going to crave them. When we start craving them, the way that the body chemistry works is we want more.
yes,
So it's hard to break that cycle.
yes,
Right?
yes, absolutely. Doctor, can see a few questions coming up. If you don't mind, can just take a few questions from the audience. Um, so the first question here is MSS Pepper. She's written, I suffer from dizziness and vertigo a lot. Is there anything I can eat, drink, or take for that?
So vertigo, needs a medical assessment to find out the cause. One of the things off the top of my head I can think about is always make sure that you're well hydrated, and the best way to hydrate is with water. Making sure that you're drinking 8 glasses a day becomes important, because certainly you can feel lightheaded if you're poorly hydrated and things like that. But vertigo is actually a medical assessment, and once we know the cause of the concern, then we have to work it out from there. What I can say is that approaching eating a healthy whole foods diet with good nutrients, and the principle around this is eat the orange, skip the store-bought orange juice, because what we're trying to say is just eat the whole food, eat the
Yeah.
spinach or eat the broccoli, skip the processed version of that. So orange juice in the store has a ton of added sugar and all the fiber removed. Whereas if you just eat the fruit, or you eat the spinach, or you eat the broccoli, they're whole food, right? And so what would suggest that eating those and starting there to improve your diet becomes very important.
All right. Thank you, Doctor. Doctor, we are also seeing that there are many diets which say that one should not have gluten and dairy or soya,
Mm-hmm.
and of course sugar is the
Mm-hmm.
main one. So
Right.
what are your personal thoughts on gluten and dairy?
So, with sugar, with added and refined sugars, that's a no-brainer, because the added, so I'm not talking about, say, sugar from fruit, which is more natural.
Yes.
And unless you have a problem with weight or type 2 diabetes, having a couple of servings of berries a day is actually good for us. It's good for our brain, good antioxidants. If, however, with dairy, gluten, and soy, soy, there are many different opinions about it, but soy on its own, the form, edamame, non-GMO tofu are great sources of soy. They've been eaten in certain Asian countries for centuries, and and studies have
Yes.
actually shown that those sources are actually okay. Um, so with dairy and gluten, it differs. It differs on whether you eat those. Number one, maybe you're plant-based, maybe you don't eat dairy. If you do eat dairy, the source becomes important, because dairy can be very inflammatory depending on
Right.
your condition. In mental health, there are certain conditions where dairy can be problematic. ADHD and focus is one of them. So think about it this way: if you do consume dairy, finding a what I call a cleaner form of it, so grass milk fed dairy, um, is better than just the regular dairy that you get. If you're finding that you're struggling with it, if you're finding that there's a uptick of your condition, whatever that may be, a worsening, maybe slowly eliminate it and see if you feel better. But I am not. I don't like to lead with you have to exclude these foods, because in mental health there are many, many different things that are going on, and I've got to find a nutritional psychiatry plan for that individual, and that individual is very different from the next individual. So they might consume dairy, they might be eating cheese, which may be if it's a good cheese, a good quality cheese, that actually could be a source of protein for them in moderation, right? So it's and for example, a plain yogurt could have a good source of probiotics for their gut. So it's not an all or none response.
Yes.
Same thing with gluten. It's the source of gluten.
Okay.
Gluten from a highly processed, shelf-stable bread is very different from farro, or a whole grain bread made from an artisanal loaf made from good quality ingredients, seeds, nuts, and things like that. So it's also having barley in a soup, or having rye, or having farro is very different from a processed bread. So again, it's the source. But if you are having a problem with gluten, try cutting it out and seeing how you
Excellent.
feel, or changing the source. So that's how I like to think about it. Again, the caveat is in mental health, there's certain conditions which can have people can have problems or worsening symptoms of gluten, and then I have to work with them to start to exclude.
All right. Thank you, Doctor. Doctor, I have another question here. That can you recommend some basic supplements for general adults that one should take on a daily basis?
Sure. So, it depends on where you live and a conversation that you should be having with your doctor, because I like to test and not guess. For example, where I live in the northeast of the country in the US, a lot of people, because of the level of sunlight, may be
Yes.
deficient in vitamin D. So checking that and supplementing that may be quite important because we know vitamin D has positive impacts for MS as well as depression and anxiety. Another good one is omega-3 supplements, very important in mental health and actually help with the anti-inflammatory effects and antioxidant effects on the brain for MS. So that's another good one. Now, if you eat seafood, you can get that from sardines, anchovies, and say wild sockeye salmon. If you don't eat seafood, you can get plant-based sources, which are less well absorbed, but they are present in chia seeds, flax seeds, walnuts, things like that. So, again, it becomes important how you put together your sort of nutrition plan.
Absolutely. Thank you, doctor. Um, and I have one interesting question, and this is one of the main symptoms of MS, which is fatigue.
Yes.
So someone has written that how to fight fatigue
Mm-hmm.
when your job requires you to stay physically active.
Right, absolutely. So again, it comes back to some of those very basic core principles. Anti-inflammatory foods are things like colorful vegetables. The different phytonutrients in different colored vegetables are great for your gut, great for your brain. They fend off fatigue. They are overall good for your body. So think about sulforaphane-rich vegetables. This is cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, broccoli sprouts. These are really good nutritious vegetables that also have anti-inflammatory properties. So start to add those veggies into your diet. Have those as your afternoon snack instead of a candy bar. Another tip I have is to keep yourself more focused. Green tea is a great source of that. So maybe in the morning you have coffee if you drink caffeine, and in the afternoon you have some green tea to keep you more alert. And then another important nutrient group are the antioxidants. Now, antioxidants come from many good foods like berries. They come from, omega-3s. They come from a lot of sources. So building those into your diet become really important to fend off fatigue. Spices is another one. If you like spicy food, capsaicin is associated with sort of an uplift of energy. Turmeric with a pinch of black pepper is anti-inflammatory and antioxidant. So if you don't cook with it, add it to a soup, a smoothie, or a tea. So so turmeric is a great one with a pinch of black pepper to make it more bioavailable to your brain and body. So those are some ways to get you started. And remember hydration. Remember to be sipping on water throughout the day because you want your body to function optimally as well.
Doctor, when you said about hydration, I can also see that, especially after COVID, I have personally seen that people were dehydrated because of
Yeah,
COVID
that's right.
infections, and
Right.
then they have developed the habit of drinking electrolyte in their
Mm-hmm.
water. So, is that a good habit? Can too much excess of electrolyte can also cause problems?
Absolutely. Anything in excess or can cause an imbalance, right? If you don't need those electrolytes, like for example, if someone comes into the hospital and I'm not sure what their electrolytes are, I do a blood test. I don't just guess. So I think it becomes important for us to understand that whether it's increasing our vitamin C foods, we shouldn't be just boosting our immunity. We just want our immunity to be sound and strong. We don't want to create some kind of an extra response because already COVID has a cytokine storm and a very hyperimmune response. So we have to be careful how we think about these. If you're dehydrated, just drink water. Just plain water will help you feel better. If you're having other symptoms, have your doctor check it out and see if you should add in some electrolytes. A lot of people who do heavy workouts will add some electrolytes after they work out, but they also know their body, they know their response. I wouldn't just guess and add a ton of stuff without knowing.
All right. Thank you, Doctor. Doctor, it's been 35 minutes, sorry, 25 minutes since we are talking. So, and just time just flies
I know.
when we are actually enjoying the conversation.
Awesome.
So, I will just take the last
Okay.
question from the audience. I've got so many questions today. I think everybody was just waiting for this session.
Thank you.
So, I can take this question about the okay, let me take this question, which I think it's not just for MS, but everyone faces it. which is about, "Hi doctor, I'm from India. Could you please recommend diet for gastric and acidity?" This
Okay.
is not just for people with MS, but everyone.
But everyone, sure. So, again, it comes back to what you might be eating. I suggest that if you're having acid reflux or you're having digestive problems, to sort of start to track what you're eating and when you are developing those symptoms, because that type of food association log becomes really important to understand what's driving this, what's making you uncomfortable. It might be something you don't realize. It might be some artificial sweetener if you're drinking a diet cool drink or diet soda, for example. You don't know. So you need to find what the associated food is. Then you need to find out if that food is a healthy or unhealthy food. For example, sometimes people have digestion problems from beans and legumes and lentils. It might be that they need to do some gut healing before they can actually consume what they might have been eating before. That's not an unhealthy food, but they might be having a response to it. So finding the source of the problem, identifying that correlation, trying to cut back or replace or do some gut healing becomes important. And then checking with your doctor if you need any treatment for that acid reflux becomes important too. It shouldn't just be that we're popping medication to relieve it. We also want to find out what is the cause of this, to help with that type of. But again, eating a healthy, whole foods, wholesome diet is very, very helpful there.
Doctor, when we talk about gastric, I have also observed that some people, I find it funny, but some people actually, when they have acidity problems, they drink soda. They feel that when we have soda, the acidity goes away. Instead, it should actually increase.
Right. So that I'll tell you the biggest problem with just drinking soda is the added sugar, right? Because it has high fructose corn syrup. It may be that the chemical reaction with again, each person responds differently. Maybe they find a sense of relief, but there are other ways to do this, and having an unhealthy substance like a sugar sweetened beverage or a soda is not necessarily the best, because the sugar is going to have other problems for you.
Absolutely.
So speak to your doctor, get it tested. Don't just be taking antacid medication without making sure you understand what the root cause of it is.
Right. Thank you so much, Doctor, for this wonderful session. We had so many questions today from the audience. Everybody wants to ask so many questions to you. It was so lovely, and we learned so much from you today. Thank you so much for your time.
Let me just tell your followers where they can find me. You can sign up for my website and get my newsletter, where we're always sharing updated research and information. That's at umanaidoomd.com. Follow me here on Instagram, where we also put out information. Sign up for my newsletter. You'll hear from me every week, and consider my book, because if you like this information, a lot of it is actually from my book. So if you have time and want to look at that, it's there too.
I will also be sharing the link of your website, and I will also be sharing the link of your book, from where people can actually go and buy it. So sure. Everybody watching here, please see that I'll be sharing the link of the book and the website soon, so you can contact Dr. Naidoo directly. Thank you so much, Doctor.
Thanks so much.
It was lovely having you.
Lovely to talk to you. Thank you. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you guys for joining us here. It was so lovely having you guys, and I'm sorry we could not answer many of the questions, but I promise we'll be adhering to them very soon. And as I said, I will be sharing the details of Dr. Naidoo right after this session on our story, and you can just click the link and visit her website, her Instagram page, and purchase her book. Right. Thank you so much, guys. And if you have any kind of suggestions, you can email us, and we will be here to help you out with any way we can. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day. Bye.